At the Oulton Park Gold Cup meeting, we're talking to historic racer Dave Karaskas. Dave, you're out today in your Midget, taking on a whole host of bigger cars, though.
Yes, that's right. It's great fun. I mean, the Midget's only a 1275, and it's got about 110 brake horsepower, but it's usually up, towards the pointy end of the grid. So I'm, racing with lots of bigger, more powerful cars. So it's quite good fun.
Now, the Midget isn't probably instantly the car that would spring to mind to most people as a racing car. So what have you had to do to it to get it up there?
Well, I was fortunate. I bought the car that was raced by Chris Alford the last couple of years, so it was already pretty much a ready to go racing car. It had been fully converted. I've had to do a fair bit to it to sort of replace parts that were wearing out. It's had new springs. We've tried to improve the brakes a little bit because Midget brakes are fairly pathetic. But we've got the handling a lot better now, and we're getting to the stage where it's going really quite nicely.
Oulton Park, obviously a classic circuit here at a classic meeting. A nice car to drive around?
It is, yeah. I mean, Oulton is very much a driver's circuit. It's certainly one of my favourites, and I really love being here. And the atmosphere of the Gold Cup is really quite special.
Now, we were talking just before we switched the microphones on about the car. You were saying you had some issues with the axle when you got it.
Yes, the axle was offset to one side, and I've spoken to quite a few people about it, and they said, "Oh, Midgets are all like that. It's to keep the prop shaft in the centre of the transmission tunnel," which sounds about weird. So we've modified that, and got the axle actually in line now with the front wheel. So I think it's handling a lot better.
And some good performances with the car this year?
Yes, we have. I mean, unfortunately, the class isn't very well supported. I think the problem with 70s road sports, there are just too many classes, and a lot of the classes have one or two cars in them. So we need to sort of address that problem so that we're a bit more competitive in each class. But I'm having fun just fighting with much bigger cars.
I was going to say, obviously, a man with quite a historic car history and quite a racing history behind you. Why a Midget?
I started racing, I'm in my 41st season now, and I actually started in Formula Ford at the Jim Russell School, but the first race car I ever had was an Austin Healey Sprite, which I raced in Prod Sports back in the 70s. And that was great fun. It was a good way to start racing. It was my only car, so I drove it to the circuit, raced it, drove it home, drove it to work the next day. And
so something you'd never really see, I think, these days in frontline motorsport. But did that almost teach you to respect the car and the people around you who are probably doing the same?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, in HSCC, historic racing, I mean, people have been around a long time, they've got a lot of experience, and they know how to race hard, but they know how to race fairly and cleanly and safely.
Okay, so say it started off in a Sprite, so where did the career go from there?
I was desperate to get into a proper racing car, so I couldn't afford Formula Ford at the time, so I went into Formula V. I raced that a couple of years. Then I was one of the founder members of the Pre-74 Formula Ford Championship, which really took off in a big way. After that I went to Formula Ford 2000. Unfortunately it was the year Ayrton Senna was doing it, so I was not quite the quickest guy out there. And after that I went into Sports 2000, won the championship in 86, and then after that I did some sort of production saloons. Into Formula 3 then. At club level I've been racing Formula 3 for over 20 years. I'm probably the most experienced driver ever in a Formula 3 car. I won the ARP Formula 3 Championship outright in a Class B car in 94, and I've won about sort of 6 other Formula 3 championships, class championships. I've also, in between doing that, I had to go at Formula 1 for about 4 or 5 years. I was in the TGP, the Thoroughbred Grand Prix Championship. Started off with a March 761. I did a few races in that, and then I bought an Arrows A4. And first year I did it, I came third in the championship, which was really impressive. And it was great fun to drive, but so expensive.
I was going to say, having started at the Jim Russell School, did you ever expect to be racing a Formula 1 car?
At the time I was young and ambitious, so I fully expected to, but then I realised the realities of motorsport, so that dream sort of evaporated. But I'm so glad I did it, because it really was the highlight of my career.
When you actually are racing those historic Formula 1 cars, how much in the back of your mind is, okay, this is a very expensive, potentially valuable historic car with a lot of history behind it, and how much of it is, this is a race car that can really perform if I do this to it?
Yeah, it actually doesn't enter your head at all. It's one of the most competitive racing formulas I've ever been in, and it's just another racing car, and if it gets damaged, it gets repaired. I mean, it's probably no more expensive to repair that than a normal, any other single-seater. If you get tub damage, you just repair it the same as you would a Formula Ford 2000 or a Formula 3. I mean, if you blow the engine up, that gets a little bit more expensive. But then you have to rebuild the engines every 800 miles anyway. So that's not cheap.
But was it nice having a Cosworth DFE behind you?
That's right, yeah. I mean, it's the iconic engine. And the one I had was actually the latest development of it. It was a DFY, which was a short-stroke, lightweight engine. So it had about 525 brake horsepower.
Even a supercar today on the road, if it had 500 horsepower top gear, would be raving all over it, and you were racing it.
That's right, yeah. But as you say, it's very, very competitive racing, and everybody sort of tries really hard. I mean, people go to watch the races and they expect to see a demonstration, and are actually amazed at how hard we're pushing them.
Fantastic. So obviously, if Formula 1, was it then to the midget, or was there something in between?
No, there was, in between that, before the Formula 1, I was doing a lot of 24-hour racing. I got very much into the endurance bug. I started off in a Mark II Golf at the last time the wheel hire was run at Snetterton, and I won the production class, which was quite nice. And after that, I got a drive at the Nürburgring 24-hour, and same year at the Spa 24-hour, which was wonderful because I won the King's Cup, which was for the most consistent lap times over the 24-hour. And so I got to get on the podium and sort of share that with people like Nelson Piquet, which was quite a highlight.
Fantastic, isn't it? So when you look back on a career, it is the little things like that stand out.
Absolutely, yes. It's standing up on a podium at one of the world's biggest events, and you just get this massive sea of humanity sort of standing down below looking up at you. It's as you're spraying champagne. It's quite special. Obviously
a long career, lots of different cars. When you're looking back, is there any one car that you think of, I'd really still love to have that one?
Yeah, I really hate selling, again, when I was young, I thought I'm going to keep all my cars, put them in a barn somewhere, but the reality is you have to sell a car to buy the next one. And I think my first race car, my little Austin Healey Sprite, when we sold that and we drove back down the M1 with an empty trailer, my mechanic Andy and myself, I think we both had a tear in our eye.
That's the one that really... any chance of ever tracking it down?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I haven't got a clue where it is now. It probably doesn't exist anymore. But no, that was days where I was racing hard. I had no money, so, it was desperate days, and it was great fun. And, really miss those days.
And again, in the historic world, any boxes you'd still like to tick?
Yes. Having sort of... Basically, what happened is, after 40 years, I decided to retire last year. So everybody said to me, so what are you going to race once you've retired? Because you can't just walk away. So I thought, I want something totally different, having sort of, won the F3 Cup trophy class last year. I thought, I don't want another single-seater, because it won't be as good as a Formula 3, so I want a total change. So I thought, let's go out and do a midget. Something really cheap and cheerful and a bit of fun. But having done it, it's great fun, but I'm now dying to get back in a racing car.
Fantastic. Dave, thanks very much for your time. Please enjoy the Oulton Park Gold Cup meeting.